Yo, what's going on? It's your boy, Big Wavy Roy Johnson here.
This is the professional Nathan Cruz.
Yo, this is man like Davie.
Hi, this is Tom Thurber.
This is Benji.
This is the Asian sensation Kanji.
This is the Nightmare Fuel Hassan Malone.
This is Joe Rage, the Heavyweight Classic.
This is Mad Dog O'Doherty.
This is Tonga.
I'm the Breaker, Carl Kingsley.
This is the infamous Cameron Solis, and you're listening
to
Broken but Glorious.
Broken but Glorious.
To Broken but Glorious podcast, because like me, you are head to toe a pro.
Hello and welcome to my Brit Rest journey. I'm Chris Lappin and I'm delighted to be joined by the promoter and booker of Knockout Wrestling, Andrew Pratt. How are you doing this evening, Andrew?
I am doing well, Chris. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, thank you for coming back up. I think it's 18 months since we last.
Yeah, it's been a long time. It was during lockdown, wasn't it? I think.
Yeah, I think it was when we were getting a bit optimistic about, I think things might start happening again, and then I think it was another 6 months.
Yeah, I think that was the story, wasn't it? We all got our hopes up, and then the rug got pulled out from under us multiple times.
Yeah, and then I did speak to you at Odyssey.
Yeah, we did, yeah.
A quick chat there, but yeah, 18 months, long time. So,
yeah,
how's
feel
it?
That long at all.
No. It's crazy thinking about like the amount of interviews I did during lockdown. I think in 2020 I did 63 interviews or something. It's crazy. Just because nobody was doing anything. So
yeah, there was a lot, because I know I was listening to a few like around the time. So yeah, you were putting a shift in at the time, weren't you?
Yeah, and nobody had anything to announce, so there was no rush to get interviews out. So it was just do an interview and could sit there for a couple of weeks. Yeah, I think I had to take like a couple of weeks off because I just had these interviews. I couldn't. I was releasing like Monday and Friday for weeks, but yeah, it was fun times.
I'm glad we're past it. Good, it was good in some ways, bad in others.
Yeah, I think I quite enjoyed the first lockdown. I didn't enjoy the second lockdown.
Yeah, I think at first everybody was like, "Oh, it's a bit of a holiday," and then when realization hit that this is going to be happening for a long time, I think that was when most people were like, "Oh, this isn't as fun as I thought it was at first."
Yeah, well, I enjoyed working from home for the first 3 months because they couldn't figure out how to get our public phone calls through to our laptops at home. So I didn't have to speak to the public for about 4 months. And I was like, I was just dealing with the emails, which was a lot easier.
Oh yeah, I can imagine.
Yeah, but Andrew has joined us to promote Knockout Wrestling's 10th anniversary show at Cloud9 on the 19th of November. So before we get into promoting the show, how was your return show post-lockdown then? How many shows you had? And just give a quick, synopsis of what's happened since, because you're one of the promoters that, do you do like a reset or just reset your titles? I can't remember which way you did it.
So we ended up, basically we suspended the reigns. So we said the date of our last show that ended up being cancelled, we were like, they've been paused as of now, and they'll resume as of our first show back, because we talked about it and we didn't want to vacate them because that felt unfair to the champions, but then we also didn't want to just let the reigns keep running, because then all our longest title reigns and all those sorts of things would get easily passed over, because obviously there was 2 years where we weren't doing anything. So yeah, we ended up pausing them. Our first show back was Resurrection, which was a year ago now, so it was November of last year, 2021. So that was obviously really good. We waited a little bit longer than some other companies did, just because I think that Odyssey show where I saw you actually was the first wrestling show I think I'd been to post lockdown. I'm pretty sure it was their first one that I saw you at, and that was the first one of theirs. Yeah. So that was the first time I'd been a wrestling show in a very long time. So yeah, we waited a little bit longer, but yeah, it was really good. We were a little bit concerned about is the crowd still going to be there and stuff, and when we bought our tickets on sale, we broke a bunch of our, records for ticket sales in terms of speed and stuff. So obviously, there was people who had been fans from before who were very eager to come back, and there was new people as well. So it went really well. We had most of the sort of old faces come back. Some did, some didn't. We had to vacate the Heavyweight Championship because Craig Kollins wasn't able to compete for personal reasons. So on that show, we actually had our tournament to crown a new champion, which 2-Bit would end up winning. We had Luke Sneed against Big Guns Joe for the Showcase Championship. and we had a tag match between the Underclass and Shawnee and Ryan Hunter as well. So it was a really fun show. I think everyone was feeling a bit rusty. I know I was, because I hadn't had to promote a show for 2 years, which was kind of nice in a way, but
yeah.
it was that weird dichotomy of, because, you know, when you're running shows, you sort of get into that, like, I don't want to say grind because that makes it sound bad, but you get into that route. You promote a show, you do the show, you sort of dump that show from memory and then start on the next one. And then, you know, we get a bit of a longer break over Christmas, but, you know, you're always kind of thinking about the next thing. So some of it was nice, and I found, you know, sort of a lot of time that I had working on KOW, I had to do other things, which was when I was streaming and playing games and, you know, various other hobbies that I picked up during lockdown. But then at the same time, it was sort of, but if somebody said to me, oh, you can run a show next month, then I would have, you know, had their hand off to be able to do it. So, but yeah, it went really well. We were really happy with it. You know, the place was packed. It was loud. It was a fun show. You know, we had some new additions. You know, we had KEINEN on that show. That was his first show with us. And then as we stretched in and moved into 2022, you know, we added more. People, obviously 2-Bit leader of the Underclass, so that was sort of the start of their rise again, because our last show, or towards the end of us running shows where we had to stop, sort of the Underclass was already a thing, but they'd added KEINEN, and then obviously 2-Bit won the Heavyweight Championship, and then Takeover was our first show of this year, and on that show, Jennifer, the Rat Queen, she made a debut as well, so,
yeah,
you know,
great.
yeah, she is. But, you know, they were looking stronger and stronger as well.
I was really surprised to find out that Odyssey show was the first show here in 2-Bit did together. I was like, they seemed like they've been a double act for years. It's just how the chemistry between them was. But yeah, they're really good together. Definitely. I didn't realise that was their first show together actually. But yeah, I guess that does make sense that it would have been. But yeah, and I think partially, you know, being at that show and, you know, seeing that dynamic, you know, was definitely something that I took on board. But yeah, they've been really good together, and obviously they're, you know, working together in BWR as well as Odyssey. You know, all 2-Bit's all over the place now. You know, he's done really well since you know, lockdown's been lifted. So good to see that he's been there. Yeah, he's still yeah.
So well.
I think so. He Wrestle Island out the shows I go to regularly. He hasn't been on. He's at TNT now, and he's Kingdom of Wrestling. Odyssey,
yeah, Future Shock he's on now as well, isn't he? Progress he just debuted for recently, and I got to go to that show actually, so that's cool. But yeah, so, you know, a lot of this year, you know, 2-Bit was quite a big focal point for us. You know, we had a 5-way match. You know, we saw some more debuts. We saw Lee Dawson, Lance Revera as well making their debuts. You know, Lance has been on shows throughout the year, and it is going to be at the 10th anniversary show, so I'm sure we'll talk about later. RPD and Brian Aidenson as well made their debuts, which again, you know, this was at the start of the year. And it's...
you have Brian as a heel as well. I've never seen him as a heel. So I'm really interested. Because he coaches me at Wrestle Island, so
yeah.
And everywhere I've seen him, he's such a good face. I'm really interested in a dynamic of him being a heel. So
yeah, well, he's definitely good. The Barrow fans really don't like him, so he's, you know, if that's his aim, then he's definitely doing a good job. But yeah, they had their debut match against each other, and that's, you know, obviously then again that's played into the 10th anniversary show, which we'll talk about later. Lucas Neon lost, so KEINEN won the 5-way earlier on in the evening, and then went on and beat Lucas Neon to be the new Showcase champion. So, you know, the Underclass had the heavyweight and the Showcase championship as well, so they were getting, you know, stronger and stronger. And then 2-Bit beat, you know, the returning Craig Kollins to keep the title as well. I'll try not to go over every single match. But yeah, we had Redemption as well. That was our third show of the year. Again, that was a really fun show. We had a tables match between the Freakshow and the Underclass of Decker and Logan that was really good. Had a really big reaction at the end. 2-Bit and Craig Kollins had a 2 out of 3 falls match. There was a fatal 4-way with KEINEN and Big Guns Joe and Lucas Neon and Lee Dawson. But that was a really fun show as well. Meltdown as well, so our second to last show. RPD got his shot at KEINEN and the Showcase Championship. But Brian Aidenson would get involved, because he sort of had an ongoing rivalry and would cost, RPD the match. Polish Barry made his debut as well, teaming with, Ravie Davie against the Underclass. They pulled off a shock win, which again was probably one of the biggest of the year. The crowd loved that. They loved seeing Davie and Barry getting the win there. Big Guns Joe beat Craig Kollins, which was again, he was considered a big upset at the time in terms of KOW, and that sort of started him on his journey to eventually being the heavyweight champion as he is now. Brian and Lance teamed up and wrestled Freakshow, and 2-Bit again defended the title, but this time against Lucas, and then, up to the last show, Road to Gold 7, I won't break down the tournament, but Road to Gold's our big, annual tournament, the winner gets the Road to Gold trophy, and we get a heavyweight championship match, usually our biggest show of the year, but unfortunately 2-Bit and Jennifer had to step away from KOW for personal reasons, so we had to vacate the championship, unfortunately. Obviously they're both still doing really well, and we're still very close with them, even though they're not participating in KOW shows at the moment. So it was for the championship as well, so that was for the first time. We had a non-tournament match, KEINEN and Will Carter for the Showcase Championship, and what was a really good match. And then, Big Guns Joe and Lucas Neon were the final two. Joe used a chair, won the championship, won the tournament, so he's the current heavyweight champion, and that, other than, I'm sure stuff we'll talk about the 10th anniversary show there, that sort of brings everyone up to speed on what's been going on in KOW for the past year. But I think it's been really good. Obviously, like I said before, after returning, we were all a little, just with it being so long, I think everybody, I'm sure, lots of different companies felt the same. We're a bit like, oh, are people going to come back? Are people going to be scared to come out to a wrestling show because of COVID? But we've had a really good year, like I said, especially that first show was really, really, really busy. We're lucky that the KOW crowd's always, really loud and enthusiastic, and, it's like I say, a lot of people, RPD and Brian Aidenson and Lance and KEINEN and Lee and those sorts of guys have all, had their first shows within last year, and they've all, said that they're a really good crowd and they're all really loud and really into it, which I think, always makes it more fun for the guys on the show. So it's gone really well, and obviously, we, in terms of the 10th anniversary show, I've had one eye on it for a very long time. And with it being such a big milestone, so we've put a lot of effort throughout the year in terms of getting to the 10th anniversary show. As always with wrestling, there's always some spanners that get thrown in the works. That's kind of the nature of the beast, but that's part of one of the skills you pick up, is being able to adapt. And when you're working with so many talented people, that makes it a lot easier. But and everyone's really excited. There's, like I say, there's people who've only been with the company just over a year, and I'm sure they're looking forward to it. There's people like myself who've been there since day one, and I think it means a lot to me, and I'm sure, it means a lot to a lot of people involved, and to the fans as well. I know there's been a lot of people who've said that they're really excited for it, so really happy with it, and, with the past year that we've had coming back in a big way, getting to work with some more, great wrestlers who, are relatively new to the Barrow crowd and have really added to our shows and give them different dynamics and, put on exciting matches and stuff. So really, really happy with everything overall.
Oh, amazing. So because you mentioned in the last interview that you kind of had like a year's worth of storylines in your head going forward, but how many of them have like come into place since?
I think it's hard to put a number on it, but I always I'd say overall most of it has, not all of it, but most. Obviously, things change, things come up, we've obviously had to vacate the titles a couple of times in the past year because of things happening, and like I say, there'll be times that people aren't available for individual shows, or, people might step away from wrestling and that sort of thing has happened recently with Taylor West at our last show. So it's one of those where I always like to have a big picture idea in mind and, a goal of where we're going, and then, if we need to change things or add things, or, a case of, Lance is on shows now, or right, because obviously, when I spoke to you originally, I wouldn't have, not saying that I, wouldn't have used those people, but, at that point I wasn't, we're going to have this person, this person, this person when we're back. So that's always fun as well, because, when you get certain, we had RPD scheduled for that show, and then, we wanted somebody else, and I'd seen Brian a couple of times and was interested, and then, that just made sense. I was like, boxer, martial artist, makes perfect sense to put them together, and then from that, has grown this year-long story that we've seen. So it's one of those where it's always a matter of having an idea of what I want to do, knowing where I want to go, but, being willing to change and move things around, and that's one of the things with KOW. We're very open to people's opinions. I never want to be like, this is what you're doing and that's it. I want it to be, this is my idea. If you've got an idea, you've got something you want to add to it, cool, let's have a chat about it, because at the end of the day, it's about putting on the best show possible and everyone having fun and enjoying what they're doing, because, if I'm not a wrestler, so, at the end of the day, I'm not going to go up to a wrestler and be like, right, I want you to do this and this, because that's not my job, and that's what they're there for. They're wrestlers, they've trained, they've put the hard work in, so I'm just there to be like, I have a little story idea I'd like to do. Could we do this maybe, or that maybe? And then, like I say, the collaboration of it is my favourite thing, because with wrestling, there's so many different styles and opinions. If I gave somebody, here's 10 wrestlers, do a show, it would be entirely different how I would do it as opposed to how you would do it. So that's a really fun part of it. And yeah, like I say, just a lot of things in the history of KOW have come about because somebody has said, oh, what about this? Or what about this? And then it's, spawned into something really cool. So yeah, and then, even moving forwards, I've got, ideas for what next year is going to look like, things further off than that. So, I think one of the things that I like about KOW, and I know that other people like about it as well, is that, we do try and have, stories that go a long time, that are built up, make sense, and to get people invested in them. And that's, that's the side of wrestling I like. Like I say, I'm not a wrestler myself, big props to everybody who puts their body on the line training and working out and eating right and all the things that are involved in doing it. You're much better men and women than me. Well, like I said, I did train a bit back in the day, very, very briefly, and but yeah, like I say,
you start to think, taking bumps will suck less eventually, but I've been doing it for 6 months,
I think he's just getting used to it more than anything, isn't it, rather than sucking any less. But it's really cool. And like I say, with how much talent there is in the UK, just in the Northwest itself, it's always a case of there's more people that I'd like to work with than I am physically able to work with. So it's a good problem I have. But I think we've got a really good mix of, our own guys who've been here, either from day one or who've come up through the academy, and then the Lance Reveras and the Brian Aidensons and the KEINENs, who are all really talented from various other places in the Northwest, who were say, oh yeah, you're really cool, you come and be involved in that sort of thing. So yeah, it's been really cool, and it's been nice getting out to more shows again, and I feel like I never end up going to as many shows as I'd like to, but I've been able to go to a couple of Catch shows, a couple of Huge Shock shows, some other, obviously Kingdom, Odyssey, other bits and pieces. So yeah, it's nice, and even if, you never actually end up getting to work with somebody, it's always good. We could ask this person or that person and get them in. So yeah, it's, I think considering, everything that's had to go through with lockdown and everything, I think, props to everybody for coming back strong and keeping things going.
This is the Ronin, Brian Aidenson, demanding that you, yes you, our very valued listener, listen to Broken but Glorious podcast.
Yeah, so 10 years of running a promotion is such a huge achievement. What are some of your favourite memories or moments over the last 10 years before we get into the 10-year anniversary show?
Yeah, I've got a fair few. Obviously our first show sticks out, especially with it coming up to the 10th anniversary show. When we did the 5th anniversary show, I was similar. I was quite reflective in terms of the first show and thinking about that. So obviously that's just a big milestone, because it was the first one we'd ever done. We were nervous about it, how it would do. We always thought wrestling would do well in Barrow because of where Barrow is. The joke is that it's the world's biggest cul-de-sac. Because there's only one way in and one way out, and you've got to go an hour off the motorway to get there. So, other than, an occasional show that comes once a year, there's not really wrestling in Barrow that much. So we were always like, that's good, because obviously, in a Manchester or a Liverpool or somewhere like that, there is more, there's more than one promotion, and there's more than one sort of gig in town, trying to compete for, fans' money and that sort of thing. So, we thought it would go well, and yeah, it was just, it went as well as it could have done. It was, very basic compared to the shows we do now, quite small group of people, camp show matches, how we refer to, 3 singles match and then a big tag match at the end, that kind of thing. Yeah. But yeah, it was packed, the crowd really loud, we were really happy. I still remember us all, because, we packed the ring away and walking, back to one of our houses after the show to get some food and have a drink or whatever. And yeah, so that's obviously one, just because of, that's where the whole thing started. over the years we had, early on, I think one of the first major things for us was the triad, Nightmare, Taylor West and Chris Ridgway. That was sort of one of our first big stories that sort of lasted like a year and a half and sort of, was the main focal point. So that, there's a bunch of cool moments in that, but them coming together and then the whole story and then the way it ended with Kollins winning an Iron Man match to win the championship and like send the triad away forever. I think the quote that I remember is somebody said that it was like the season finale of a TV show, which I always took as a big compliment.
Yeah.
And that show itself, Riot, was a really good show. In retrospect, we had Dan Maloney and Chris Brooks against the YOLO squad, Ethan Silver and Drew Parker on that as well as obviously Ridgway and Kollins Iron Man match, which is actually available on our Facebook if anybody does want to check that out. We did like a best of and released some of our older matches, I think during lockdown, because we were looking for things to post, to be honest. So that is up there if anyone wants to watch that. Road to Gold 3 was a really good show. Again, just at the time, the lineup for the tournament, was stacked. We had Sam Gradwell was in that, Chris Brooks, Drew Parker and Ethan Silver, Chris Ridgway was in that as well. So that was like a really big show for us at the time, just in terms of the lineup. And I remember that being one where I was like, this is, and no disrespect to any other Road to Gold tournament lineups we've had, but for me, that's still like the best lineup just for the tournament we've ever done, and that was a really cool show. Yeah, Ethan, the final was a 4-way and it came down to Silver and Chris Ridgway, and that was really, really good, and the crowd were really, really behind it, and the reaction when Ethan won was really cool, so that always sticks in my head as well. In terms of me when I went bad for a while, getting kicked out of KOW, that was pretty fun. That was, I was like the evil GM for a while, and we had a big, I had a big issue with Nightmare, and so we had a big Team Nightmare versus Team ALP elimination tag match that was really cool and dramatic, and Team Nightmare ended up winning. I got Nightmare misted me in the face, and I got handcuffed by Sheriff Steele and dragged out the venue where all the fans sang na 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 hey 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 goodbye and all that. So that's cool. That was a cool moment for me as much as anything else. Royal Justice, when they introduced the tag titles, that was obviously a big deal. For the first few years, we only had the Heavyweight Championship. And then we introduced the Showcase, which was initially just going to be like an Academy Championship, and ended up becoming a proper championship on our main shows, largely because of, Rick Marcus, and now it's one of our major titles. And then, we'd always, because we've always sort of been a 5-6 match, kind of, that's our limit in terms of shows. So I was always like, we don't want loads of titles, because if we have loads of titles, then, half the people on the show are going to have titles. So it was a very gradual thing, but, Royal Justice sort of came together as a team, and that was sort of our dry run of, would a tag division be something we want to do, and would this work? And it went really well, so props to those guys, because they basically created the whole tag division. If it hadn't have gone well, it might have just been, okay, well that didn't work, we'll go back to doing something else. But yeah, they introduced their own titles, which were like, the WWE foam belts that they put KOW and Royal Justice logos on. So they weren't official at first, because this is when I was still a bad guy GM, and then I think it was a year later actually, they got, the official title belts got introduced, and they got awarded those. So yeah, that has to get a mention. Lucas Neon winning the Showcase Championship from 2-Bit in a TLC match as well. Probably one of the most emotional moments we've had. I think it was, what would that have been, 6 months or so, a year and 9 months-ish before lockdown happened. So that was a really big moment. The fans really behind him. When he came up from the academy, I remember having a conversation with him that was your biggest asset is how sympathetic you are. And how you can get your ass kicked and it'll make people really get behind you. So I was like, you're not going to win a lot, but I promise it'll work. I was like, just trust me. You're the kind of character that needs to get beat down and beat down and beat down. So then when you have the big moment, it'll be massive. And then that did end up working out. So that was his first, he'd had wins previously, but that was his first title, his first, massive win, something the fans were salivating for. I think if I remember rightly, somebody told me that one of the younger kids who was his fan was if he doesn't win, the title soon, I'm going to stop coming. I think they said that, before the show where he won the title. So I'm glad he won it there, because we would have lost at least one fan that day. But yeah, there's loads of kids in the crowd that love him. He's really popular. He went from being an academy graduate to being the most popular guy in the company, and he has been for a while. So that was huge, and he got to celebrate with his family in the ring and his dad, and he had an emotional moment afterwards. There were a fair few wet eyes in the house, myself included, so that's definitely up there. And then Grayson betraying Steele, so breaking up Royal Justice. Unfortunately, because of lockdown and stuff, I don't know if we're ever going to get a resolution to that, but in the moment, that was massive. And I know somebody put the clip up online and, was saying how, I think it was something like, people might not know about this, but like one of the biggest, shocks that's happened. And just the shock in the room, and then the silence, and then the anger. I can't think of another moment that had that, that exact reaction of just people literally being like, physically reacting to it, and then say all goes a bit quiet, and then everybody realizes what's happened, and then, raining down hate on Grayson. So there's been a lot, as well. Another one that wasn't a main KOW show, but, sort of super fan, Lunatic Louise, is his wrestling name. We got to do a birthday party for him a few years ago, because he's a really big KOW fan. He was OPW.
That sounds fun.
Yeah, he goes to all the OPW shows and Kingdom of Wrestling, and I think he went to UBW. It's UBW, isn't it? Recently, Rob Drake just won their championship. That's right. Yeah, and Lance was wrestling in a title match, wasn't he? Yeah. So he went to that. So, he's all over the place, and it's cool because he started out in KOW. Was his first live wrestling.
Oh, I think I know who you're talking about. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm sure you do.
I know him from.
Yeah, I was going to say he's become a bit of a fixture on shows in the Northwest. But we got to do a birthday party for him. Obviously, he's a really big fan. He's a really cool lad. So that was really nice. He got to have a moment where he, amusingly, his two favourite wrestlers in KOW were Sheriff Steele and Rick Marcus, who were bitter rivals at the time. But they put that to one side for the day, and they teamed up. And then, say, Lunatic Louise is his wrestling character. So he was there. He was a 6-man tag, so he was the third man. And they tagged him in at the end, and he got to hit I think they both picked him up and did a big running drop kick, and then he got to have the pin, and he got to have all these mates cheer him, and chant for him. So it was just very nice. It was very wholesome, very nice moment. So I know, it was only 40 people maybe, his friends from school and, parents and family members and that sort of thing. But, that was a really nice moment in terms of, giving a kid something special and that sort of thing. So that's up there as well. Less people saw it and less people were there for it, but I know for everyone who was there on that day and, was involved in doing that we all look back on that very, very, very fondly. And we're hoping we're going to be able to do another show one day because we were meant to do another one, and then lockdown happened. So Louis Mania 2 will hopefully happen at some point.
That sounds neat. I hope.
Hello, this is RP Davis, and you're listening to BBG Wrestling.
Alright, so it's your 10th anniversary show on the 19th. So we'll go through the matches. So should we start with the main event? So we've got Big Guns Joe. This is Lucas Neon.
Yeah, big heavyweight championship match. Like I said, they've sort of been intertwined since we came back to running shows. Like I said, our first show back, they wrestled for the Showcase Championship, which Neon would win, and then they crossed paths a couple of times in sort of multi-man matches and stuff during the year. But like I say, it was the Road to Gold final. A lot of fans, Lucy Simons, who writes amazing articles and show reports and stuff for us, she had, picked Lucas as the winner, and I know a lot of the fans thought, this is it, he's going to win the tournament, he's going to win the title. Obviously, Joe, like I say, used a chair, cheated to win. And after the match, it was announced that Lucas would get a match at the anniversary show. There was a delay in announcing that officially and releasing the graphic because a video went out the other day that was basically Sheriff Steele had said, look, those two are close, they're friends, but he was like, look, this year you've lost the Showcase Championship, he didn't win it back, he lost his match with 2-Bit for the title, he lost in the final, so it was a case of, look, I want to give you another match. I want to give you another chance to get the title because, most of those times he got, screwed over and cheated out of the win. But, I can only do so much. So if you want this match, it's got to be your last shot at the title. And if you don't win, that's it. You're not having another shot at the heavyweight title. Obviously, Neon's accepted that. So, he's risking everything. It is the biggest show we've ever done. So I think, it's kind of the only choice he had really. But yeah, the match they had for the Showcase Championship was really, really good. I know there's a lot of people saw the match of the night. Joe, has had a bit of a transformation since then. He's got new gear, he's in ridiculous shape. and again,
I tweeted him saying the whole point of your gimmick is that you think you're big, not that you are actually big. So
yeah,
I can't think tiny Joe at you anymore.
But yeah, so and then since then, like say, he beat Craig Kollins, which was a huge deal. Two-time champion, two-time Vertigo winner. Been here since the start. That was a big deal. He beat RPD in the first round of the tournament, and then he's won the title. So Joe's got a massive amount of momentum behind him. Obviously, one of the real fixtures in the UK now. He's everywhere, wrestling all over the spot. Like really big fixture in the UK now. So it's going to be really interesting. It's going to be a really good match. I know, like say, a lot of the fans are very excited for it. We had a comment on one of our posts saying, like, he better win, otherwise my lad's going to stop coming, basically. So, again, there's a lot riding on it. But yeah, great main event match, two really good wrestlers. It kind of sums up what KOW is, a homegrown talent that the fans love, one of the best talents in the UK. It didn't start with us, but, has been involved with KOW for a number of years, for sort of, a couple of appearances here and there, and now, a full-time roster member.
Yeah.
And obviously really talented. So yeah, I'm very excited for it. And personally, I think Neon probably going to win, even though Joe's only just won the title. I think, with everything on the line, I think Nia will end up walking away. But yeah, it's going to be really good. I, have one of the best seats in the house because I ring announce as well, so I get to sit on the stage with a nice little view of everything that's going on, can see all the crowd, can see the ring. So yeah, I'm going to be swept up in it, I'm sure. And, hopefully I remember that, at the end I need to announce the winner and, do my excellent job, because I'm sure which happens fairly often where I get lost in a match and be like, oh yeah, that was the end of the match. I need to do my thing now. But yeah, so yeah, that should be really good, and hopefully, like say, lives up to the, the hype of being the main event of our biggest show ever.
Yeah, two great wrestlers. Yeah. Next, we've got the tag team titles. So the Underclass are currently in possession of the championships, even though they're not champions, and they're against one of my favourite tag teams, the Freakshow.
Yeah, exactly. So, Freakshow and Underclass have kind of been like intertwined for a very long time, basically since the Underclass have formed. They've always been a loggerheads with the Freakshow. The Underclass were tag champions. The Freakshow beat them for the titles when it was Decker and Jax pre-lockdown. They had a match earlier this year, like I mentioned, the tables match, which was a really, really good match. Crowd came unglued when the Freakshow won the match and put them through tables. That was insane. And then, like I mentioned as well, the show after, Ravie Davie, who, is a light-hearted, quite fun, likes dancing, tie-dyed up, glow sticks and all that. Polish Barry as well, they teamed up, first time ever teaming together, Polish Barry's debut, Underclass, you would expect them to win. They end up losing. And after the match, Jennifer basically, says, you lost against Freakshow, you've now lost against these two, you need to do something. And, their answer to that was attacking the Freakshow, later on in the night and stealing the tag titles, stealing the physical belts. The Freakshow tried to get them back at Road to Gold, but that backfired, and that actually ended up with Craig Kollins getting eliminated and Decker going to the final. So, they've still managed to keep hold of the physical belts. Like I say, they've had a rivalry for a very, very, very long time. They've already tangled. It would have been the 7th anniversary show where they wrestled. They wrestled each other early this year in a tables match. So, this time, just a straight one-on-one match, prove who the better team is. The Underclass can't argue, you didn't pin us, you just put us through tables or anything like that. Yeah. Freakshow are going to want to get their belts back because obviously, they haven't had them for months now. The Underclass are parading around with them, like they're theirs. Underclass, especially now the 2 bits left and it's under new management and there's only the 3 of them now, along with KEINEN. KEINEN's still Showcase champion, but, they haven't been able to get hold of those tag titles yet. Logan is new, he's going to want to prove himself. Decker's, now the more seasoned member of the Underclass and it's kind of taken on a little bit of a leadership role, it seems like. So it should be really good. These two teams, have really good chemistry together. Like I say, the tables match was really good. And it's going to be really interesting. I think it's hard to call. Freakshow are our longest reigning tag champions ever. The fans love them just as much as they hate the Underclass. So, our tag division is relatively new, but, it's become a real highlight of our shows. And, both these teams are cornerstones of the entire division, really. So, if we were going to have a tag title match at our biggest show ever, probably would that you would pick to go at it. It's going to be really interesting. Don't know how it's going to go. Like I say, I'd probably back the Freakshow, just because, you know, they're so loved, and obviously they've got so much riding on it. But yeah, it's going to be really good. Underclass could very easily win. You know, they're proficient at the unfair tactics. So I think either way, again, it's going to be a really good match tonight again, and I know one the fans are very much looking forward to seeing.
Yeah, I think Decker's had one of the post-lockdown. He's had such a great run, like in Odyssey and Kingdom and with you guys, and it's just like
Paramount Wrestling, I think he is as well.
Paramount is good, yeah.
He's won their like briefcase recently, hasn't he? I think as well. So yeah, he's doing well, and he's very busy, from what I can tell. So yeah, he's doing really well for himself, and like I say, obviously in Odyssey and Kingdom. So yeah, it's nice seeing him, you know, getting about, and you know, getting some opportunities. That's what we always want at the end of the day. Anybody that we work with, we always say that, like, you know, KOW is like the family is what we say, and you know, that is. We try and keep it like that as much as we can. So, you know, anybody we work with, you know, whether it's somebody who's on one show or somebody who's with us for years, you know, we always want to see him doing well. And British wrestling is all we want to see doing well. So it's always nice when I see, oh, cool, that person's working here now and here now. So yeah, it's always nice to see that sort of thing.
Yeah, whenever Wrestle Island, my local promotion, say, who should we get out the shows, I always say Decker, because he's local as well. He lives on the world.
Yeah.
So KEINEN will defend his showcase trophy against a mystery opponent who will be selected by Commissioner Steele. Be fun.
Yeah, and we've been told that it's a returning KOW legend. So
wow.
Lots of people it could be potentially. Obviously we'll find out on the night. You know, KEINEN's been on a tear ever since he debuted. He's still unbeaten, you know, like over a year now from when he debuted. You know, he debuted teaming with Decker and got them a title shot. The show after, you know, he won 2 matches one night and became Showcase champion, and since then he defended it every single show, racked up a really impressive reign. You know, Jennifer admittedly did help him out a fair bit, in terms of some of his defenses, but, you know, he wasn't there at the last show and he managed to beat Will Carter. Really good wrestler, you know, really, really talented. You know, came highly recommended to us. And, you know, he's more than backed that up. He's really, really good inside the ring. Again, you know, the fans hate him, but, you know, he's very talented, but, you know, also doesn't make himself, well liked in Barrow. But yeah, there's no denying how good of a reign he's had. You know, it reminds me a little bit.
He's an amazing wrestler as well. So.
Yeah, exactly. Reminds me a little bit of Rick Marks' first reign with the trophy. You know, both not well liked, but both had really impressive reigns. Obviously, you know, the wild card is, you know, who's he going to be wrestling? You know, if you look back over our 10 years, you know, there's literally probably 50 different people that it could potentially be. So, you know, it's difficult to say, but whoever it is, you know, they've got the element of surprise on their side. KEINEN's not going to be able to prepare for them. You know, again, is it somebody who wrestles regularly? Is it somebody who maybe hasn't wrestled in a while, potentially? If it's somebody coming back. So it's going to be interesting. Obviously, it's a little hard to talk about just because we don't know who he's going to be facing. But, you know, I think Commissioner Steele probably wanted to keep someone in the back pocket, a surprise for the night, and he's been hinting on Twitter that there's surprises coming and stuff. So I'm excited to see who it is. And, you know, with the year KEINEN's, I'd like to say, you know, he's had great match after great match.
Alright, so next we have Knockout versus Tapout, RPD versus Brian Aidenson. I'm really looking forward to seeing this match.
Yeah, you know, like I said before, when we first brought them both up, you know, I was really looking forward to seeing the match just because, you know, the clash of styles, and, you know, it's really developed, and, you know, it might, you know, it's a show where there's a lot of personal issues going on, but this might be the most personal one on the entire show. Like say, they debuted against each other. RPD won. Brian, you know, if you'll, you know, believe Brian, he won with an illegal punch, and he was very upset about that. And then from there, he was doing an interview, and it was said during that basically that if RPD was winning his match the next show, he was going to get a Showcase title match, and that if Brian won his match, then he'd get a number 1 contenders match with RPD, because Brian really wanted his rematch. Yeah, that didn't end up happening because Brian's opponent had to be changed, and so Commissioner Steele said, well, you didn't. You know, I said you had to beat Shawnee, and you didn't beat Shawnee, so it didn't end up happening, which just angered Brian more. So, you know, RPD got a Showcase title match. In the end, Brian got a tag title match, and he teamed up with Revera instead. But, you know, Brian was still clearly upset, and like I mentioned before, you know, he interfered in RPD's match with KEINEN, gave him a brutal kick to the face, which cost RPD the match, and then afterwards attacked his hand with a steel chair. Commissioner Steele had to get involved and Brian got suspended, but even with him being suspended from Road to Gold, he still, cost Ryan his match against Big Guns Joe because Brian's music played, distracted RPD, and so, he ended up losing that match. So Ryan, after the match was like, I want this match, and then, Brian added that if they were going to do the rematch, now that it was Ryan coming to him for a rematch instead of, the Ronin saying, I want a rematch this time, he said, right, well, if we're doing that, then I want knockout or tap out, me versus you. And to see who the better man is, obviously, Brian has, for the whole year, has wanted to get his rematch so he can, in his mind, right that wrong with him losing, and in his mind, cheated because of the illegal punch. Obviously RPD's had a really good year, he was unbeaten before Brian got involved. So, it's been really heated between the two, they're constantly exchanging barbs on Twitter with each other. So I know they're both raring to go. In terms of moving into the next year, it's important because, whoever gets a win here, it's going to give them momentum moving forwards, maybe future title matches. But for right now, I think it's just a personal issue. They're both fighters. They've both got, fighting backgrounds. They both take it very seriously and want to prove who's better. And I think that is what it comes down to. It's gone from that issue from when they first wrestled each other, and it's just gotten more and more personal to the point now where, somebody's either going to get knocked out or somebody's going to go asleep or tap out. So, we've had similar matches before, but not, with two, athletes with this sort of, striking ability and submission ability and that sort of thing. So I think it's going to be really cool. It adds, like I said, the advantage around these two guys involved is they both had some different styles, different backgrounds, different abilities. So yeah, and if I was picking a match to be most excited about, it's hard to pick, but this one, like I said, the first match I was very excited for, and that lived up to expectations, and it's been a year since then. They've both only gotten better and got more experience, and now, with this added hatred between them, it's hopefully just going to make for an even more entertaining match. So yeah, fireworks in this one, I think, and somebody might end up, back out by the end of it.
Yeah, it's mad the rise of RPV in the last year, because he's like number one contenders in everywhere he is. It's like Wrestle Island, he won the Royal Rumble, the Island Rumble, so he's their number one contender. I'm sure in TNT, he's their number one contender as well.
Yeah, I think
the rise over the last 18 months is amazing.
Yeah, and he's wrestled for the Odyssey title as well. He's wrestling Lance for the Kingdom of Wrestling Championship as well, isn't he? Later on in the month, I think it is.
Yes, 27.
I'm glad you knew, because I was going to say 29th, but it's at the end of the year. Kingdom of Wrestling, check them out. Good friends of ours. But yeah, so, yeah, like I say, he's had a big rise, and obviously Brian as well, I've been seeing him obviously pop up a lot of different places, obviously Wrestle Island and Infamous and a bunch of other places, Future Shock as well. So yeah, that's good. Obviously, both really talented, both work really hard. So yeah, again, great to see them sort of establishing themselves in the Northwest, and like say, RPD's like say getting title shots for days, and you imagine it's not going to be that long before he wins his.
Yeah, it'll be a bit. I think he might go on a bit of a bell collector gimmick if it carries on like this. Right, and then the final match, we've got the Vertigo ladder match. So you've got the War Machine, Craig Kollins, you've got Ravie Davie, and you've got your girlfriend's favourite wrestler, the Playboy Prince, Lance Revera. BBG, Wrestling's own.
One of our favourites, so to speak.
Yes.
But yeah, the Virgo ladder match has been a feature of our anniversary shows for a number of years. Last year, like I say, we did a show in November. We didn't name it as an anniversary show because it was, it was our first show back. So, yeah. It is an anniversary show, but, it wasn't titled as such. But other than that, we've had one every year for many, I don't know if it's every show, but I'm sure it must be, I think, every show, maybe potentially every anniversary show we've done. So it's always a fixture of them. We've had singles matches, we've had 5 or 6 people in them. They're always really, really good fun. Obviously, the winner gets, I'm sure everybody's familiar with the concept, but, they get a title match anytime in the next year. Yeah. We've seen people successfully cash in. Sheriff Steele used his to become heavyweight champion. Taylor West has cashed in successfully as well. So, it's a big opportunity, obviously, for whoever does win it. It's an interesting lineup this year. We've had a whole host of different characters. Pete Dunne was even in one year. Yeah. So, we've had a whole bunch of different people. But yeah, it's interesting this year because, if you were looking at it on paper, you'd say that Craig or Lance would be the favourites, but Craig, as much as he's a company legend and, like say, he's got a list of achievements a mile long here and, in the various promotions that have run in Markham over the years and elsewhere as well. But, he's had a bad year. He's had an unfortunate year. Lance, has put in some really good performances, but hasn't, got his first win in KOW that he's still looking for. Whereas, Ravie Davie, who, if you were looking at on paper, you think, he'll be the dark horse. He's the only one in this match who, has a win this year. So, it's going to be really interesting. Obviously, very different personalities. Craig's quite intense and full on. Lance, obviously, you're very familiar with Lance. He's a showman. He's already posted about how he loves jumping off high things. So that's got me a little bit concerned. I'm sure he'll be flirting with some of the ladies in the crowd as well. And then you've got Davie, who, is just good fun. Good-hearted guy, big guy, can do some damage, but he's fun-loving. So it's gonna be really interesting. Like say, any of those guys could easily win it. It's a ladder match. It's chaotic. It's going to be punishing. I think, like I say, most people have probably picked Craig as their winner. Lance, I'm sure as well, will have some people who are backing him as well. Like I say, Ravie, probably seen as a bit of a dark horse, but, as we've seen before, when Sheriff Steele won it, that he was a surprise to a lot of people. So, with the nature of a ladder match, anybody really can end up winning. You can just be in the right place, right time. The window's open, you can go up and grab it. So yeah. It'll be really good. Obviously adds a little bit of, carnage to the show. We're going to have, we've got a couple of really cool singles matches. We've got the tag match that's going to be really good. We've obviously got that special knockout or tap-out match, and then this, adds a bit of the violence, a bit of the more style of wrestling, bringing the ladders and everything. So yeah, will be really good. I'm sure, Craig loves throwing people around. Lance, like say, as I said, he wants to jump off something high up. So, we'll have to make sure the insurance is all in place and everything's sorted for that. Should be really, really, interesting. And it's gonna affect what happens next year. One of those three guys could, well cash in next year or even later on in the night, I guess, technically, and win the title. So it's always exciting when somebody's got that briefcase because nobody ever knows when they're gonna cash it in. And, for any of them, Lance, obviously, if he won, that'd be massive for him, his first win and, get himself a huge title shot. Craig, it would put him massively back on track. And obviously, Davie, would take him from, maybe somebody who's not taken as seriously in KOW as some of the other guys in the match. But, again, with the advantage of a cash in, he could go from lovable dancing guy to, heavyweight champion very, very quickly. So yeah, it's going to be real interesting and, should make for a lot of fun. Like I say, I'm definitely praying that nobody, whenever there's a ladder match or anything like that, I'm always just like, nobody get hurt. And we've been very lucky. We've never had any serious issues at a KOW show, and I'll be hoping that continues. So, but yeah, they always make me a little bit nervous when we have those sorts of matches.
Alright, so where can the listeners find tickets or any more information about the show?
Yeah, so the best place to go is our Facebook page, just Knockout Wrestling. We're on Twitter as well, at KO_wrestling on Instagram, at K_O_wrestling. You can get them via PayPal, £7 each. The PayPal link is all over our socials. You'll be very easily able to find it. If you're local to Barrow, they're also on sale at TNT Records and Salthouse Post Office, our good friends locally who help us out with the ticket sales. So you can pick them up there. We usually do have tickets on the door, but tickets are selling very quickly for this show. So, if you are away, you don't have PayPal for whatever reason, and you do want to come, do get in touch, and we can work something out. But those are the best ways to do it. Like say, tickets, really are shifting. We've seen a lot flying out via PayPal. We're a couple of weeks away from the show still, and like say they're shifting, and it's always like the last couple of weeks that they really start moving. So if you want to come, if you want to be there, like say, it's going to be historic for us and for everyone involved. I'm really happy with how the cards worked out. I think it's a really strong lineup, and hopefully it'll be a really good show for everyone. So yeah, if you do want to come along, please do. If you've never been to a KOW show before, this is a perfect one to come to. I know we have had some fans travelling from further afield, which is really cool. And, some people travelling from Blackpool and Markham and Lancaster and different places to check out the shows, which is awesome. So yeah, like I say, it's definitely a good first show to come along to. Like I say, it's family friendly, suitable for everyone. Whether you're 8 or you're 80, you'll hopefully have a great time. Tickets, like I said, £7. We try and keep our ticket prices, low as possible so people can come, 'cause obviously, things aren't great financially in the world right now, and we always want to make sure that, people can come along and have a fun time. So yeah, hopefully you do come and join us. Like I say, I am anticipating, to be honest, we are going to sell out, and there may well be a sort of having to turn people away or standing room only type situation. So yeah, I definitely recommend getting them early if you can, because if you do come on the door, obviously we'll post updates on our socials, but if you do come on the door, I can't guarantee you'll definitely get in. Obviously we'll do our best to get everyone in that we can, but we have to think about safety and stuff. So yeah, get them as soon as you can. And like I say, if you don't have PayPal and